China's sharp response to Japan-Philippines maritime talks signals rising regional tensions. A new diplomatic dispute has erupted in East Asia after China strongly condemned a decision by Japan and the Philippines to begin formal negotiations on maritime boundary delimitation. The development comes at a time when security cooperation between Tokyo and Manila is expanding rapidly, while Beijing continues to assert broad claims in nearby waters. The controversy emerged just days after Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. concluded a high-profile state visit to Japan, where he met Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi. During the visit, the two countries elevated their relationship to a comprehensive and strategic partnership and agreed to deepen cooperation in defense, intelligence sharing, maritime security, and regional stability. Recent agreements also included discussions on military information sharing and expanded security coordination amid growing concerns about maritime ions in the Indo-Pacific. Against that backdrop, Japan and the Philippines announced plans to begin formal talks aimed at defining maritime boundaries between their respective exclusive economic zones and continental shelves. The move was presented by both governments as a legal and technical process designed to clarify maritime jurisdiction under international law. China, however, reacted immediately and forcefully. Speaking at a regular press briefing in Beijing, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning rejected the planned negotiations and accused both countries of infringing upon what Beijing considers its maritime rights. China is strongly dissatisfied with and firmly opposed to this, said Mao Ning, spokesperson for China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She went further, declaring China solemnly declares that the so-called delimitation negotiations between Japan and the Philippines are entirely illegal and invalid. Mao Ning, spokesperson, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China. According to Mao, Beijing has already lodged formal diplomatic protests with both Tokyo and Manila. The dispute centers on waters east of Taiwan, where China claims an exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. Beijing argues that its maritime entitlements extend into areas that could be affected by any future Japan-Philippines delimitation agreement. For China, the issue is not simply a technical maritime negotiation. It touches on broader sovereignty claims and strategic interests that Beijing considers fundamental to its national security. The reaction also reflects a wider geopolitical reality unfolding across the Indo-Pacific. Over the past several years, Japan and the Philippines have steadily strengthened their relationship as both countries confront growing concerns over Chinese maritime activities. While the Philippines continues to face repeated confrontations with Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels in disputed areas of the South China Sea, Japan remains locked in ongoing territorial and maritime disputes with China in the East China Sea. Those shared concerns have pushed Tokyo and Manila closer together than at any point in recent history. During Marcos' visit to Tokyo, both leaders emphasized the need for stronger cooperation in response to what they described as an increasingly challenging regional security environment. Japan and the Philippines agreed to expand defense cooperation, accelerate discussions on military equipment transfers, and pursue an intelligence sharing framework. Reports indicate that Japan is considering transferring naval destroyers and patrol aircraft to the Philippines as part of broader defense cooperation initiatives. The strengthening relationship is particularly significant because Japan has traditionally maintained strict restrictions on defense exports. Recent policy changes in Tokyo have opened the door to deeper military cooperation with regional partners, and the Philippines has emerged as one of the most important beneficiaries of that shift. For President Marcos, the strategy is part of a larger effort to diversify and strengthen the Philippines' security partnerships. Since taking office, Marcos has expanded defense cooperation not only with the United States, but also with Japan, Australia, and other regional partners. Manila has argued that these partnerships are necessary to safeguard Philippine maritime rights and ensure stability in contested waters. The South China Sea remains at the center of these concerns. China claims sovereignty over most of the South China Sea, despite overlapping claims from several Southeast Asian nations, including the Philippines. A 2016 international arbitration ruling rejected many of Beijing's claims, but China continues to reject that decision and has maintained an extensive presence in disputed waters. In recent years, confrontations between Chinese and Philippine vessels have become increasingly frequent. Incidents involving wat-wat, Cannons, dangerous maneuvers, and close encounters have repeatedly heightened tensions. Philippine officials have consistently accused Chinese vessels of interfering with resupply missions and restricting access to areas that Manila considers part of its exclusive economic zone. Those tensions have transformed the strategic calculations of countries across the region. Japan, which faces its own maritime disputes with China in the East China Sea, increasingly views the Philippines as a critical partner in maintaining a balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. Analysts note that both countries are seeking stronger cooperation not only to address current challenges, but also to prepare for potential future crises involving regional security and maritime stability. The timing of China's criticism is therefore particularly noteworthy. Beijing's condemnation comes immediately after Japan and the Philippines elevated their relationship to the highest level of strategic partnership. It also follows a series of defense initiatives involving Japan, the Philippines, and the United States aimed at increasing interoperability and coordination among allied and partner forces. From China's perspective, these developments form part of a broader trend that Beijing often describes as efforts to contain China's rise and limit its strategic influence. Chinese officials have repeatedly criticized security cooperation among U.S. allies and partners in Asia, arguing that such arrangements risk increasing regional confrontation rather than promoting stability. Meanwhile, both Tokyo and Manila insist that their actions are defensive in nature and grounded in international law. Philippine officials have consistently stated that maritime boundary negotiations are a normal process between neighboring states and are intended to clarify jurisdictional issues rather than create new disputes. Japan has similarly emphasized the importance of maintaining a rules-based international order and resolving maritime issues through legal mechanisms. The broader implications of the dispute extend beyond the three countries directly involved. The Indo-Pacific is increasingly becoming a focal point of global strategic competition. Maritime trade routes, critical supply chains, energy transportation corridors, and military access all converge in the waters stretching from the East China Sea to the South China Sea. As a result, even technical negotiations over maritime boundaries can carry significant geopolitical consequences. The latest disagreement also arrives as regional diplomacy remains highly active. The Philippines has recently expanded engagement with other Southeast Asian partners, including Vietnam, with both countries seeking stronger maritime and security cooperation amid continuing concerns about Chinese activities in contested waters. For now, there is no indication that Japan or the Philippines intend to halt the planned maritime negotiations, despite Beijing's objections. Instead, the latest exchange appears likely to become another chapter in the increasingly complex geopolitical competition shaping the future of the Indo-Pacific. China's warning demonstrates how sensitive maritime issues have become for Beijing. The talks touch on territorial claims and strategic interests. For Japan and the Philippines, they represent an effort to strengthen legal clarity, deepen cooperation, and reinforce a regional order based on international rules as these competing visions continue to collide. The waters surrounding Taiwan, the East China Sea, and the South China Sea are likely to remain among the most closely watched geopolitical flashpoints in the world. And with Japan and the Philippines moving closer together strategically, China's reaction suggests that maritime disputes will remain at the center of regional tensions for the foreseeable future.